I'm Heather, 32, and I wasn't invited to my own sister's wedding. My mom told me I'd make things awkward with my presence. For years of built-up resentment between Megan and me, fueled by our mother's favoritism, led to that devastating phone call. While they celebrated what Mom called the society wedding of the year, I was facing a life-changing opportunity nobody saw coming. They had their perfect wedding photos. I had something much better. Before I dive into this roller coaster of family drama, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and stick around to discover how rejection became my unexpected blessing. Growing up, Megan and I shared the typical sister bond. Despite our 4-year age gap, we were inseparable as children. I taught her to ride a bike, helped with homework, and protected her from neighborhood bullies. Our bedroom walls were covered with photos of us making silly faces and holding handmade "Sisters Forever" signs. Those early years felt pure and uncomplicated. Things changed when I hit my teenage years. My mother, Barbara, had always been particular about appearances and social standing, but as I developed my own identity, the criticism intensified. I preferred art and literature while Megan excelled in cheerleading and student government, activities Mom valued. When I dyed my hair purple at 16, Mom didn't speak to me for a week. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became Mom's refrain, delivered with exasperated sighs and disappointed glances. Dad, an accountant who preferred peace over confrontation, would offer sympathetic smiles, but rarely intervened. "Your mother just wants what's best for you," he'd say after particularly heated arguments. His favorite phrase, "this too shall pass," felt less comforting as years went by. The contrasts between us were stark and consistently reinforced. When Megan brought home straight A's, Mom threw dinner parties to celebrate. When I won a statewide art competition, Mom questioned why I couldn't focus on something practical. My academic achievements were expected, Megan's were exceptional. My mistakes were character flaws, Megan's were learning opportunities. A specific Christmas stands out in my memory. I was 17, Megan 13. Mom gave Megan a beautiful charm bracelet from Tiffany's, a family heirloom passed through generations. My gift was a set of SAT prep books with a note, "You'll need these more than your sister." Dad looked uncomfortable, but said nothing as I excused myself from the table. College became my escape. I chose a university 3 states away and limited visits home to major holidays. With distance came perspective. I made friends who appreciated my creativity, professors who nurtured my talents, and eventually, a career in graphic design that fulfilled me. Each success strengthened my resolve to define myself outside my family's narrow expectations. Meanwhile, Megan followed Mom's carefully planned path: prestigious local university, sorority presidency, internships at family friends' companies, and community volunteer work that looked good on resumes. Our interactions became increasingly superficial during holiday gatherings, polite inquiries about work and weather, nothing substantive. At 24, with my design career taking off, I visited home for Thanksgiving and finally stood up to Mom's criticism of my impractical career. "I'm making more money than Dad did at my age," I said when she suggested I consider accounting like him. "And I actually enjoy waking up for work every day." The table fell silent. Dad studied his mashed potatoes. Megan looked between Mom and me, waiting. "Well," Mom finally said, "some people value stability over indulging childish passions. But you've always been stubborn." "I value happiness," I replied. "And I've found it without your approval." That night, Megan knocked on my old bedroom door. For a moment, I glimpsed my little sister again, not Mom's mini-me. "I think what you're doing is cool," she whispered, looking over her shoulder as if Mom might appear. "I wish I could be brave like you." The moment passed quickly. By breakfast, she was back to parroting Mom's opinions about my bohemian lifestyle. But that brief connection stayed with me, a reminder of what our relationship could have been without Mom's interference. As we entered our late 20s, the gap widened. I built a life in Chicago, working for a boutique design agency with clients across the country. My apartment overlooking Lake Michigan became my sanctuary, filled with art and friends who became family. Megan remained in our hometown, working at a law firm where Mom had connections, attending country club events, and dating men Mom deemed appropriate. Our phone calls grew less frequent, often ending in disagreements when Mom's opinions inevitably surfaced in Megan's words. I'd recognize the familiar cadence, the identical phrases, and wonder how much of my sister remained beneath our mother's influence. By the time Megan met Tyler at a charity gala Mom had helped organize, we were essentially strangers connected by DNA and childhood memories. I learned about their relationship through social media updates and brief, holiday phone calls. I tried maintaining a connection, sending birthday gifts and congratulatory texts for career milestones, but Megan's responses were increasingly delayed and impersonal. I told myself it didn't matter. I had built a fulfilling life on my terms. But deep down, I missed my sister and longed for the family I wished we could be. I learned about Megan's engagement through Facebook. My morning coffee nearly spilled as I scrolled through dozens of professionally photographed images of Tyler down on one knee at sunset on Kiowa Island. The enormous diamond caught the golden light perfectly. Mom was tagged in the corner of one photo, champagne flute raised, beaming with pride. My phone rang 20 minutes later. Mom, not Megan. Did you see the news? Her voice brimmed with excitement. Tyler's family has the summer home next to the Prestons. His grandfather was a state senator. We're thinking June at St. Mark's Episcopal, then the reception at the country club. I noticed she said we before Megan had even called me herself. When Megan finally called that evening, she sounded breathless and happy. For a moment, I caught glimpses of my little sister beneath the polished exterior Mom had crafted. I wish you could have been there, she said, though we both knew I hadn't been invited to the weekend getaway. It was so romantic, Heather. He had the ring custom made. I'm really happy for you, Meg, I said, meaning it despite everything. You'll be part of the wedding, of course, she added quickly. Mom's already talking to wedding planners. It's going to be amazing. That initial conversation was the most enthusiasm Megan directed toward me throughout the entire engagement. Within weeks, the wedding had transformed from her special day into Mom's social triumph. Weekly phone calls detailed Mom's latest decisions, the historic church booked before Megan had even toured it, the custom-designed invitations that unfortunately couldn't include your artwork. Heather, we're going for a classic look. And endless discussions about which families needed to be included to maintain proper social connections. When I asked Megan if this was what she wanted, her response was telling. Mom knows best about these things. She's been planning this since we were kids. I couldn't argue with that truth. 3 months into the engagement, I flew home for what Mom called a preliminary bridal luncheon. The country club dining room was filled with Mom's friends, a few relatives, and women I assumed were from Tyler's family. Megan sat at the head table beside Mom, both wearing nearly identical cream-colored dresses. Heather, there you are, Mom said when I arrived, eyeing my emerald green dress with thinly veiled disapproval. We were just discussing the bridal party. Over poached salmon and champagne, Mom announced that Megan's college sorority sisters would serve as bridesmaids, with her former roommate as maid of honor. I maintained my smile, though my role hadn't been mentioned. Later, helping Megan with gifts, I cautiously asked about the wedding party. I thought sisters were automatic bridesmaids, I said lightly, trying to mask my hurt. Megan looked uncomfortable. Mom thinks having 7 bridesmaids would throw off the symmetry with Tyler's groomsmen. But you'll have a special reading during the ceremony. Mom's finding something appropriate. Something Mom approves of, you mean? Please don't start, Heather. This is already stressful enough. I backed off, not wanting to upset her, but the pattern continued through every wedding conversation. When I suggested a smaller, more intimate celebration might be meaningful, Mom dismissed it as thinking too small. When I offered to design custom thank you cards as my gift, Mom had already ordered engraved stationery from her preferred printer. Each rejection came with Megan's apologetic eyes, but firm adherence to Mom's vision. 6 months before the wedding, Mom orchestrated a casual family dinner that felt anything but casual. The conversation revolved entirely around wedding details, the 5-tier cake, the string quartet for the ceremony, the vintage Rolls-Royce for transportation. Tyler's family has connections to the governor, Mom mentioned 3 separate times, each with increasing volume. We're hoping he might attend. When I asked Megan about their honeymoon plans, the one topic that might actually involve her preferences, Mom interjected. The Andersons offered their villa in Tuscany. Much more refined than that backpacking nonsense you used to talk about, Megan. I was 18 when I wanted to backpack through Europe, Mom, Megan said with a forced laugh. Thank goodness your taste has improved, Mom replied, patting Megan's hand. Unlike some people who never outgrow their rebellion phase. Her pointed glance in my direction wasn't subtle. Dad concentrated on cutting his steak with surgical precision. Tyler, to his credit, looked uncomfortable. Later that evening, as we looked through childhood photos Megan wanted to display at the reception, I made one last attempt at connection. Are you happy with all of this, Meg? Because it seems like Mom's planning her dream wedding, not yours. Megan's expression hardened. Just because it's not what you would choose doesn't make it wrong, Heather. Not everyone wants to be different just for the sake of it. This isn't about me. I just want to make sure you're getting the wedding you want. What I want is family support without criticism, she snapped. Mom has experience with these things. She knows what works. The wall between us solidified that night. I returned to Chicago feeling like a guest in my family's narrative rather than a participant. The weekly wedding updates became monthly courtesy calls, with Megan increasingly parroting Mom's opinions and priorities. I maintained polite interest while privately mourning the sister I used to know. As the wedding approached, the tension escalated. Mom's emails included not-so-subtle suggestions about appropriate attire and suitable hair color for the event. Megan's texts became perfunctory updates rather than conversations. I felt myself being systematically edged out of a day that, in different circumstances, might have brought us closer. The dinner that changed everything happened 3 months before the wedding. Mom insisted I fly home for yet another family planning session, though my input had been systematically ignored throughout the process. Still, I harbored hope for reconnection with Megan and arrived with a small gift, a vintage handkerchief embroidered with blue flowers I'd found at an antique store. Something blue, I told Megan when she unwrapped it. It reminded me of the one Grandma carried at her wedding. For a moment, genuine emotion crossed her face. It's beautiful, Heather. Thank you. Mom quickly interjected, we've already ordered custom monogrammed handkerchiefs for the entire bridal party. Tiffany blue to match the theme. The handkerchief disappeared into Megan's purse, never to be mentioned again. Throughout the appetizers, Mom dominated conversation with wedding updates. The governor had confirmed his attendance. The florist had secured rare orchids for the centerpieces. The photographer had done Princess Eugenie's wedding. When Dad asked about my recent project with a major athletic brand, Mom cut in before I could answer. Speaking of appearances, she said, ignoring my work completely, Megan has finalized her bridal party selections. My stomach tightened. Despite months of exclusion from planning, I had assumed my sisterly role was secure, even if relegated to a background position. Megan stared at her water glass. We've had to make some adjustments to accommodate Tyler's family traditions. Meaning? I asked, though I already sensed what was coming. Mom answered for her. The wedding party needs to present a certain image. Consistency is key for the photographs. I'm not consistent enough for family photos. The hurt in my voice was unmistakable. Don't be dramatic, Heather, Mom sighed. Your personal choices simply don't align with the aesthetic we've established. My personal choices? You mean my career? My hair? My existence outside your approval? Megan finally spoke. Please understand, it's nothing personal. Tyler's family is very traditional. The bridesmaids will all be wearing identical dresses, hairstyles, even nail polish. And you think I'm incapable of wearing a dress for one day? For you. That's not, Megan began, but Mom interrupted. Let's be honest. Your tendency toward individual expression would make things awkward. The Richardsons are very prominent. Tyler's future depends on family connections. Certain impressions matter. The room tilted slightly. You're not asking me to be a bridesmaid because I might embarrass you. We're simply being practical, Mom replied coolly. You've always prided yourself on being different. This event requires conformity. Does different now mean not invited? I looked directly at Megan, whose eyes remained fixed on her plate. Of course you're still invited, Dad interjected, breaking his characteristic silence. Your family. Of course, Mom echoed, though her tone suggested otherwise. You'll have a special role. We're thinking you could manage the guest book. The guest book. Where they would park the embarrassing sister, safely away from photographs and meaningful participation. Megan, I said quietly. Is this what you want? Her eyes finally met mine, conflicted but resolute. I want a perfect day without conflict. Is that so wrong? And I'm the conflict. Not Mom's controlling everything, not the parade for Tyler's family, but me. This is exactly the attitude we're concerned about, Mom said sharply. Making everything about yourself instead of supporting your sister. I stood, napkin falling to the floor. I've supported Megan my entire life, even when you pitted us against each other. Even when you used her to make me feel inadequate. Even when she chose your approval over our relationship. Heather, please, Dad began, but I was already gathering my things. Congratulations on your perfect wedding, Megan. I hope the guest book gets properly managed without me. The following week brought a flurry of text messages from Megan, mostly variations of "I'm sorry you feel that way," without actually addressing what happened. Dad called twice, leaving voicemails that meandered around the subject without taking a position. I responded minimally, still processing the dinner's revelations. Then came the phone call that severed the last thread. Mom's voice, formal and detached as if speaking to a distant acquaintance. After careful consideration, we think it best if you don't attend the wedding at all. The words landed like physical blows. Excuse me. Your reaction at dinner confirmed our concerns. Megan deserves a day without drama or attention-seeking behavior. Mom put you up to this, I said, though I knew Megan was listening on speakerphone. Megan's voice, small but firm. It's my decision too, Heather. I can't spend my wedding day worrying about what you might say or do. Or how I might look. Or whether I'll embarrass you in front of the governor. This is exactly what we mean, Mom interjected. Making everything about you. You've made it about me by explicitly excluding me. What will you tell people when your daughter isn't at her only sister's wedding? We'll explain you had prior commitments, Mom replied smoothly. Work obligations. People will understand. The calculated nature of it all, they'd already prepared the explanation, broke something fundamental inside me. Prior commitments, I repeated hollowly. Well, at least you freed me to make some. We hope you'll understand this is for the best, Mom continued, as if discussing a minor change in dinner plans. Family harmony sometimes requires difficult decisions. We're not family, I said quietly. We're related. There's a difference. I hung up before they could respond. Then I blocked their numbers, turned off my phone, and cried until there were no tears left. The weeks following the disinvitation blurred into a haze of emotion. I cycled through disbelief, rage, devastating sadness, and finally, a numb acceptance. My apartment became both sanctuary and prison as I avoided social interactions that might require explaining my family situation. Rachel, my best friend since college, arrived unannounced the third day with reinforcements, comfort food, wine, and fierce loyalty. They don't deserve you, she declared, unpacking containers of pasta. And they definitely don't deserve your tears. Then why can't I stop crying? My voice cracked despite my attempts at composure. Because you're a good person who believes family should act like family. She squeezed my hand. Their failure isn't yours. Rachel stayed the weekend, forcing me into showers and sunlight. By Monday, I'd graduated from pajamas to actual clothes, progress by any measure. When she left, other friends seamlessly took over the support rotation. Lunch deliveries appeared at my office. Invitations arrived for dinners and weekend activities. My chosen family stepped up while my biological one stepped away. 2 weeks after the call, I started therapy, something I'd considered for years but avoided, fearing what unraveling family dynamics might reveal. Dr. Lillian Chen's office became a safe space for examining patterns I'd normalized my entire life. Your mother has been positioning you as the family scapegoat since childhood, Dr. Chen observed during our third session. And your sister learned it was safer to align with her than risk becoming one too. That doesn't excuse Megan's choice now. She's an adult. No, it doesn't excuse it. but understanding patterns helps break them. The question is, what patterns do you want to break? That question became my touchstone as June approached. I considered elaborate revenge fantasies, showing up uninvited in spectacular fashion, sending pointed gifts, posting family secrets online. Dr. Chin helped me recognize these impulses as natural, but ultimately harmful to my own healing. Indifference, not anger, is the opposite of love, she reminded me. Your best response is creating a life so fulfilling their absence becomes irrelevant. With therapy providing clarity, I made a decision. I would travel during the wedding weekend. Somewhere far from social media and wedding updates. Perhaps a remote cabin or beach retreat where I could focus on healing rather than hurting. Life had other plans. For weeks before the wedding, an email arrived from Julian Westbrook, creative director at Maddox Partners, one of the most prestigious design firms in New York. I'd applied for positions there twice in previous years without success. We've been following your work with impressive clients, the email began. Your portfolio shows exactly the innovative approach we're seeking for our new creative team. They requested an interview in person in New York the Friday before Meghan's Saturday wedding. The timing felt cosmic. Escape the wedding weekend while potentially advancing my career? I responded immediately, confirming my availability and interest. Julian's reply came within hours, including details for the interview and expressing enthusiasm about meeting. I forwarded the exchange to Rachel with a single line, "Universe has perfect timing." Her response, "Karma doing her job. Pack your power suit." The next 3 weeks transformed my apartment into a war room of preparation. I redesigned my portfolio website, created custom presentations highlighting my most innovative work, and researched Maddox Partners' client list obsessively. Rachel coordinated mock interviews with friends in management positions, each providing feedback that strengthened my presentation. Between preparation sessions, Dr. Chin helped me process the emotions that continued to surface. "I'm not just doing this to avoid the wedding, am I?" I asked during a particularly vulnerable session. "Would you be excited about this opportunity if it had come at any other time?" "God, yes. It's Maddox Partners. They're legendary." "Then accept that good things can arrive in difficult seasons. You're allowed multiple truths. This hurts deeply and this opportunity matters. You're avoiding pain and moving toward growth." 2 days before my flight to New York, a text arrived from an unknown number. "My cousin Lily, Mom's niece. Heard you're not coming. That's messed up. Call if you need anything." I hadn't realized news of my disinvitation had reached the extended family. Mom's carefully constructed narrative was already showing cracks. I texted back simply, "Thanks. I'll be in New York for a job interview that weekend." Lily's response, "Upgrade. Good luck." That small exchange fortified me. As my plane took off Thursday morning, I felt something unexpected alongside the lingering hurt, excitement. Whatever awaited in New York represented possibility rather than rejection. For the first time in months, I looked forward rather than backward. Manhattan in late spring hummed with energy that matched my nervous anticipation. My hotel room overlooked Madison Avenue, a splurge justified as self-care. That evening, I walked the busy streets, anonymously surrounded by millions of stories that had nothing to do with country club weddings or family expectations. I slept surprisingly well and woke feeling clear-headed and focused. The navy blue suit I'd chosen projected confidence without trying too hard. As I applied minimal makeup and styled my hair, currently a subtle auburn rather than my occasional more vibrant colors, I realized I wasn't conforming to anyone else's expectations, but rather presenting my most professional self for my own purposes. The Maddox Partners office occupied 3 floors of a sleek midtown building. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered spectacular city views, while the reception area displayed award-winning campaigns for clients ranging from global nonprofits to technology innovators. My pulse quickened as I checked in, excitement temporarily overshadowing all wedding-related thoughts. Julian Westbrook emerged from glass doors, hand extended. Tall with silver-streaked dark hair and rectangular glasses, he projected exactly the creative but serious energy the firm was known for. "Heather," he greeted warmly. "Your portfolio has generated quite the buzz around here. We're excited to learn more." As he led me into a conference room where 4 other team members waited, I silently thanked every circumstance, even the painful ones, that had led to this moment. The interview room buzzed with creative energy as Julian introduced the team: Aisha, head of digital strategy; Marco, client relations director; Devi, senior designer; and Rebecca, operations manager. Their diverse backgrounds and specialties suggested Maddox Partners valued multiple perspectives, the opposite of my family's rigid conformity. "We've all reviewed your portfolio," Julian began. "Your work shows remarkable versatility while maintaining a distinctive voice. Particularly the sustainability campaign for Urban Outfitters," Aisha added. "That perfect balance of commercial appeal and genuine environmental messaging is rare." For the next hour, we discussed design philosophy, creative processes, and specific projects. I presented my custom portfolio presentation, explaining the strategic thinking behind each campaign. Questions came rapid-fire, but felt collaborative rather than challenging. "What we're attempting here," Julian explained, "is creating a new division focused on ethical branding, helping companies align their visual messaging with authentic values." "That's exactly where I've been hoping to take my career," I replied honestly. "Design isn't just about aesthetics. It's about truth-telling through visual language." Julian and Aisha exchanged approving glances. After the formal interview, Julian offered to show me around the office. As we toured, employees greeted me by name, suggesting they'd been briefed about my visit. The atmosphere felt simultaneously professional and warmly informal, creative work covering walls, collaborative spaces filled with animated discussions, and a rooftop garden where staff took breaks amidst thriving plants. "We believe environment shapes creativity," Julian explained as we admired the Manhattan skyline from the roof. "And community strengthens individual talent." The concept of supportive community resonated deeply given recent events in my life. Back in Julian's office, he shifted from tour guide to potential employer. "Before you leave, I'd like to discuss a specific project that aligns with your expertise." He outlined a major rebranding initiative for Brennan Worldwide, a family-owned corporation transitioning to more sustainable practices while honoring their legacy. "They need someone who understands both tradition and innovation," he explained. "Someone who can respect heritage while advocating for necessary change." The parallel to my personal circumstances wasn't lost on me. "That's essentially been my life's work," I replied with unexpected emotion. "Finding the balance between honoring roots and growing beyond them." Julian studied me thoughtfully. "We don't usually make offers this quickly, but sometimes timing demands decisiveness." He slid a folder across his desk. "We'd like you to join Maddox Partners as art director for the ethical branding division, with the Brennan project as your first assignment." I opened the folder to find a formal offer letter. The salary figure, nearly double my current compensation, made me blink twice to confirm I wasn't misreading. The benefits package included relocation assistance, significant creative control, and partnership track potential. "This is unexpected," I managed, professional composure temporarily deserting me. "But not unwelcome, I hope," Julian smiled. "We've been following your work for over a year. When our previous art director departed last month, your name topped our recruitment list." The synchronicity was stunning. While my family planned to celebrate without me, the universe had orchestrated this alternative path. "I'd need time to consider logistics," I said, though my mind had already decided. "Of course. Though we'd need your answer by Monday to proceed with the Brennan timeline." As Julian walked me out, introducing me to additional team members as if my acceptance was foregone, I felt a surreal disconnect from the wedding preparations happening hundreds of miles away. While Megan was likely having her rehearsal dinner, I was being welcomed into a community that valued exactly who I was. Back at my hotel, I ordered room service and spread the offer details across the bed, examining every aspect. The position itself was perfect, challenging but aligned with my values and skills. The salary would transform my financial situation. The team seemed genuinely collaborative rather than competitive. My phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Rehearsal dinner happening. Mom telling everyone you had unmovable work commitments with sad face. Thought you should know." I laughed to spite myself. Mom's narrative control extended to manipulating sympathy for my absence, an absence she had orchestrated. "Thanks for the intel," I replied. "How's Megan holding up?" "Tense. Keeps checking her phone. Thinks she misses you more than she's allowed to admit." That revelation stung in unexpected ways. I pushed it aside to focus on the decision before me. Just after midnight, I emailed Julian my acceptance, requesting Tuesday's start date to allow time for apartment hunting. His response came minutes later despite the hour. "Excellent decision. Team already celebrating. See you Tuesday, we'll help with housing." Saturday morning dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for a garden country club reception. I deliberately avoided social media, knowing it would be flooded with wedding updates. Instead, I met Rachel for breakfast at a sidewalk cafe in Greenwich Village, having flown her in to celebrate. To new beginnings, she toasted with her coffee cup. And to people smart enough to value you properly. As we explored the city that would soon be my home, I experienced waves of conflicting emotions. Elation about the opportunity ahead. Lingering sadness about family fractures. Pride in my resilience. Hope for the future. By evening, when the wedding reception would be in full swing, Rachel and I joined several Maddox Partners employees for dinner at a trendy restaurant in Soho, Julian having connected us upon learning Rachel was visiting. Their immediate inclusion of my best friend reinforced my confidence in the company's culture. Lily texted around 9, "Reception looks amazing, but feels weird without you here." Dad looked at your empty seat during family photos. "Think he regrets not standing up for you." I appreciated her updates while maintaining emotional distance. Whatever was happening at the wedding belonged to a chapter 1 was now closing. Later, in my hotel room, Dad texted from an after-party. "Proud of you always. Should have said it more. Love you." It was the most direct acknowledgement I'd received from him throughout the entire wedding saga. Too little, too late, but still something to process with Dr. Chin in our next session. As I packed for my return to Chicago, now temporary rather than permanent home, I realized the wedding day had passed without consuming me. My focus had shifted from what I was missing to what I was gaining. The universe, it seemed, had better plans for me than a reluctant invitation to witness someone else's vision. Returning to Chicago felt like visiting a transitional space rather than coming home. My apartment, once sanctuary, now represented a phase ending. I began sorting possessions: keep, donate, sell, store. Each decision reinforced the reality of my imminent move to New York. Social media exploded with wedding content exactly as expected. Professional photographs showcased flower arrangements, table settings, and the historic church. Megan looked genuinely happy in most images, though I noticed tension around her eyes in several formal family portraits. Mom's carefully curated captions referenced family celebrations without mentioning my absence. Comments from relatives included conspicuous questions, "Where's Heather?" and "Miss seeing the big sister." Mom's responses maintained the work commitment narrative without specifics. 3 days after the wedding, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Aunt Susan, Mom's sister." "I know Barbara's version of events," she said without preamble. "I'd like to hear yours." Her directness, so unlike Mom's passive-aggressive communication, caught me off guard. I explained the disinvitation honestly, including Mom's awkward assessment and the guest book suggestion. "That tracks," Aunt Susan sighed. "Your mother has always been obsessed with appearances." I wondered why she was being so vague about your work commitments when I asked directly. Similar calls followed. Uncle David. Cousin Mike. Dad's college roommate Thomas. The carefully constructed explanation was unraveling as family members compared notes and found inconsistencies. Each conversation validated my experience while highlighting how extensively Mom had managed the narrative. Meanwhile, preparations for my move accelerated. Julian connected me with a realtor who specialized in relocating professionals. Within a week, I'd secured a spacious one-bedroom in a brownstone near Gramercy Park, slightly above my original budget, but worth the investment in my new life. Rachel coordinated a going-away gathering that overwhelmed me with support. Colleagues, clients, friends from various life chapters filled my favorite restaurant, celebrating not just my departure but my success. Their collective faith in me provided armor against lingering family rejection. As I prepared for my first day at Maddox Partners, a notification alerted me to being tagged in a post. Megan had finally acknowledged my absence publicly, missing my sister today as we open wedding gifts. Wish work hadn't kept her from sharing our special day. Family means everything. The calculated performance of it, positioning herself as the bereft sister while maintaining mom's fabricated excuse, sparked something unexpected, not anger, but pity. Megan remained trapped in patterns I was finally escaping. I posted my own life update that evening, thrilled to announce I've accepted the art director position at Maddox Partners in New York. Grateful for this incredible opportunity to lead their new ethical branding division. Chicago friends, thank you for 6 amazing years. New York, I'm ready for our adventure. The announcement generated immediate response, including congratulations from extended family who suddenly connected my work commitments to this exciting development. Several commented on the perfect timing with no idea how perfect it actually was. Mom texted the following morning, "Congratulations on the new position. You might have mentioned such significant news to family." The irony was almost comical. After explicitly excluding me from family, she now claimed entitlement to my personal information. I didn't respond. My first weeks at Maddox Partners passed in exhilarating blur. The Brennan Worldwide project launched with intensive discovery sessions, competitive analysis, and creative ideation. I assembled a team of designers who complemented each other's strengths, establishing collaborative processes that valued diverse perspectives. Julian's mentorship provided both challenge and support. "You have natural leadership abilities," he observed after I successfully navigated a difficult client meeting. "You advocate for creative integrity while genuinely hearing client concerns. That balance is rare." 3 weeks into my new position, I discovered the unexpected connection. Brennan Worldwide had recently acquired a smaller company owned by Tyler's family. Our rebranding work would directly impact their business division. "Small world," Julian remarked when I mentioned the connection. Though in certain business circles, connections tend to overlap. I chose not to disclose the full complexity of my relationship to the Richardson family. The project would succeed on its merits, regardless of personal history. As our initial concepts for Brennan took shape, industry publications took notice. Julian had strategically leaked elements of our approach, generating buzz about Maddox Partners' new division and its innovative leadership. Adweek featured a profile on the firm's ethical branding initiative, including a sidebar interview with me as the division's art director. The piece highlighted my previous work and vision for combining aesthetic excellence with authentic values alignment. The accompanying photograph, professional, confident, and distinctly my own style, captured exactly who I'd become outside my family's limiting expectations. The article circulated widely through design communities and corporate marketing departments. My LinkedIn connections tripled within days. Speaking invitations arrived from industry conferences. Former clients reached out about potential projects. A week after publication, Dad called. "I saw the article," he said, voice conveying genuine pride. "This is incredible, Heather. You're really making your mark." "Thanks, Dad." The acknowledgement meant more than I wanted to admit. "Your mother saw it too," he added cautiously. "The ladies at her club mentioned it during bridge. Apparently Mrs. Richardson's daughter-in-law is connected to a company you're working with." The information pathways of small-town society never cease to amaze me. It's a large corporation with many divisions. I doubt I'll have direct contact with Tyler's family. Still, quite a coincidence. Dad paused. "Megan asked for your address. For a thank you note, I think. For the wedding gift." I hadn't sent one, another detail Mom had apparently fabricated. "I moved, Dad. New job, new city, new apartment." "Right, of course." The awkward silence stretched. "I could give her your new address, if that's okay." I considered the olive branch this represented. "Sure. That's fine." 2 days later, Megan texted, "Saw your article. Congratulations. That's really impressive." The acknowledgement without Mom's filtering felt significant. "Thanks. How's married life?" "Good. Different. Busy with thank you notes." A pause, then, "Mom said you sent a crystal vase?" We didn't actually receive anything from you. That's because I didn't send anything. I wasn't invited, remember? Another pause. Right. Sorry. That was awkward. Story of my life, apparently. The exchange ended there, but something had shifted. The fabrications were becoming harder to maintain as my professional visibility increased. The following week brought the most surprising development yet. The business section of the New York Times ran a feature on family-owned companies embracing sustainable practices, with Brennan Worldwide as the central case study. The piece mentioned their partnership with Maddox Partners and included quotes from my presentation to their executive team. Mom called that afternoon, the first direct contact since the disinvitation. The Richardsons are very impressed with you, she said immediately, skipping any greeting. Elizabeth Richardson mentioned you at the Garden Club luncheon. Said you're bringing fresh perspective to corporate traditions. Elizabeth Richardson, Tyler's mother, had apparently connected the dots between her new daughter-in-law's sister and the art director reimagining their company's brand. The work speaks for itself, I replied neutrally. Well, it's certainly gotten you noticed in important circles. Mom's tone suggested this achievement somehow validated her parenting despite everything. Will you be attending the Brennan holiday reception? The Richardsons mentioned it's quite an event. Tyler and Megan will be there. The calculated social climbing was so transparent it almost deserved admiration. Having failed to control my narrative, Mom was now attempting to incorporate my success into hers. I haven't decided, I answered truthfully. My schedule's quite full these days. You should go. Family connections are important in business. The irony of this statement after she'd severed our family connection for the wedding was breathtaking. I'll keep that in mind, Mom. I need to go, client meeting. As I ended the call, I realized something profound had changed. For the first time in our relationship, the power dynamic had shifted. Mom needed the association with my success more than I needed her approval. The revelation wasn't about revenge or satisfaction. It was about finally understanding my worth existed completely independent of her assessment. That evening, I called Dr. Chen to process this development. How does it feel to be seen on your own terms? She asked. Validating, I admitted. But also strangely hollow. I didn't do any of this to prove something to them. Exactly, she replied. You did it for yourself. That's why it feels authentic rather than vindictive. You've broken the pattern of seeking external validation. As media attention continued and the Brennan project progressed, I settled into my new reality. My work received recognition based on merit rather than conformity. My chosen family expanded through professional connections and New York friendships. My new apartment became a reflection of personal taste rather than rebellion against family expectations. The journey from rejected sister to respected professional hadn't erased family wounds, but it had transformed them from active injuries to healing scars, evidence of survival rather than sources of continuing pain. 6 months after the wedding, winter transformed New York into a glistening snow globe. My life had developed comfortable rhythms, challenging work days at Maddox Partners, weekend explorations of my adopted city, and regular video calls with Chicago friends. The Brennan project had exceeded expectations, with the new branding rolling out to industry acclaim. Julian had already assigned me 2 additional major clients, with a team that had expanded to include 6 designers under my direction. My apartment reflected growing roots, artwork on walls, plants thriving in morning light, and a guest room for visiting friends. Dr. Chin and I had transitioned to monthly check-ins rather than weekly sessions, marking progress in my family healing journey. The Brennan holiday reception, the event Mom had so transparently promoted, had come and gone without my attendance. I'd chosen a previously scheduled design conference in London instead, a decision based on professional priorities rather than avoidance. December brought inevitable holiday considerations. Thanksgiving had been spent with Julian's family in Connecticut, a warm, chaotic gathering that contrasted sharply with the performative perfection of my childhood holidays. Christmas, however, loomed with more complicated choices. Dad called mid-December, our communication having stabilized into bi-weekly conversations that carefully navigated around Mom's involvement. We'd love to have you home for Christmas, he said cautiously. If you're comfortable with that. The invitation represented the first direct family acknowledgement of my exclusion from Megan's wedding. No one had explicitly apologized, but this tentative step suggested recognition that boundaries had been crossed. "Who's we, Dad?" I asked gently. His sigh carried years of conflict avoidance. "I want you home, Heather. Your mother. She has her own way of processing things, but she's mentioned your absence at holidays. And Megan asks about you. Has anything actually changed? Or am I supposed to pretend the wedding situation never happened?" "People make mistakes," he offered. "Sometimes pride makes acknowledging them difficult." It wasn't the accountability I deserved, but I recognized his effort as meaningful within his limitations. Before I could decide about Christmas, Megan called, our first voice conversation since before the wedding. "I'm in New York for a conference," she said, her tone unnaturally bright. "I thought maybe we could have coffee? If you're not too busy." The request surprised me. "I can make time. When are you free?" We arranged to meet at a cafe near my apartment the following afternoon. I approached the meeting with measured expectations, armor still partially in place despite months of healing work. Megan arrived looking both familiar and changed. Marriage had softened some of her sharp edges, or perhaps distance from Mom's daily influence had allowed her natural warmth to resurface. After awkward greetings and coffee orders, she placed a small wrapped package on the table. 6 months late, but I wanted to give this to you in person." Inside, I found a silver frame containing a childhood photograph I'd never seen, Megan and me building a snowman, perhaps ages 4 and 8, laughing with snow-covered mittens and scarves. "Dad found it while digitizing old albums," she explained. "It reminded me of who we used to be, before everything got complicated." The gesture cracked something within me. When did it get so complicated, Meg? When did Mom's approval become more important than our relationship? She stared into her coffee. "I don't know exactly. Gradually, then suddenly." Looking up, she added, "I've been in therapy since the honeymoon. Tyler suggested it when I kept having nightmares about the wedding." "Nightmares? You were there, but couldn't see or hear me. I kept trying to reach you, but invisible walls kept appearing." She shook her head. "Doesn't take a psychology degree to interpret that one." "And what has therapy revealed?" I asked carefully. "That I've spent my life making choices to avoid conflict rather than pursue happiness. That I let Mom use me as a weapon against you because it was easier than standing up to her. That I'm terrified of disappointing people, even when their expectations are unreasonable." She twisted her wedding ring nervously. "And that I miss my sister. A lot." The admission hung between us, honest, but insufficient to erase months of hurt. "I'm not ready to pretend everything's fine," I said finally. "But I'm open to starting wherever we are now and seeing where it goes." "That's more than I deserve," she admitted. "It's not about deserving. It's about choosing differently going forward." We talked for 2 hours, navigating between careful distance and occasional glimpses of former connection. She shared wedding stories that acknowledged my absence as a loss rather than a convenience. I described my New York adventures with enthusiasm that wasn't performative. We didn't solve everything, but we created possibility where none had existed before. As we prepared to leave, Megan hesitated. "Mom asks about you." In her way. Her way meaning checking my LinkedIn profile and hearing updates through mutual connections. Megan smiled ruefully. "Exactly. She saw your team won that advertising award last month. Made sure everyone at her book club knew her daughter's sister was quite successful in commercial arts." "Commercial arts," I repeated with a laugh. "Still can't call it design." "Baby steps," Megan shrugged. "She's not good at admitting mistakes." "No, she isn't. But that doesn't mean I have to pretend they didn't happen." "I know. I'm just saying, there might be space for something different. Eventually." We parted with a hug that felt both familiar and new, a tentative bridge across damaged terrain. That evening, I called Dad to discuss Christmas. We negotiated boundaries that would allow me to visit while maintaining self-respect. I would stay at a hotel rather than the family home. I would participate in Christmas dinner and gift exchange, but leave if Mom became critical or dismissive. I would bring Rachel as support and buffer. "That seems reasonable," Dad agreed. "I'll make it work with your mother." 2 days before Christmas, I returned to my hometown for the first time since the wedding debacle. The familiar streets felt simultaneously comforting and constricting, a reminder of both roots and restrictions. Rachel's presence beside me provided necessary grounding. Christmas Eve dinner proceeded with surprising civility. Mom maintained formal politeness that never warmed to genuine welcome, but never descended to hostility. Megan and Tyler created conversational bridges when silence threatened. Dad beamed at having his family assembled, however tenuously. The most revealing moment came during gift exchanges. Mom presented me with an expensive cashmere sweater, exactly her taste, not mine, with a card signed, "To continued success." The gift acknowledged my professional achievements, while subtly suggesting I still needed her guidance on personal presentation. I'd anticipated this dynamic and brought her a carefully selected art book featuring female designers who'd transformed corporate visual identities, highlighting my field's importance while providing education she'd never admit needing. "How thoughtful," she said, paging through with genuine interest despite herself. Perhaps I've underestimated this design field. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even direct acknowledgement of past dismissals. But within our complicated relationship, it represented microscopic movement. Dad's gift proved he'd been paying attention despite his passive role in family conflicts, a first-edition collection of essays by my favorite design critic, inscribed with, "To my daughter, whose vision I've always admired. Love, Dad." The weekend maintained this delicate balance between old patterns and new possibilities. By the time Rachel and I departed, tentative plans had been made for Tyler and Megan to visit New York in spring. Mom had extended a stiffly formal invitation to summer at their lake house, if your schedule permits. Dad had hugged me 3 times at the airport, repeating, "I'm so proud of you," like a mantra he'd been storing for years. On the flight back to New York, Rachel assessed the visit. That was the most Midwestern passive-aggressive healing I've ever witnessed. "Baby steps," I echoed Megan's earlier words. Not everything needs dramatic resolution. Sometimes progress looks like slightly less dysfunction each time. Back in my apartment, I placed Megan's framed childhood photo beside my design awards and art school diploma, different chapters of my story finally coexisting rather than competing. The juxtaposition represented my evolving understanding. Family connections mattered, but not at the expense of personal authenticity. Healing didn't require erasing boundaries or forgetting lessons learned through pain. The new year brought continued professional success and gradual family recalibration. Megan and I established monthly video calls, sometimes awkward, sometimes surprisingly connected, always honest. Mom maintained polite distance while finding subtle ways to associate with my accomplishments in her social circles. Dad began therapy himself, taking first steps toward breaking his conflict avoidance patterns. My disinvitation from Megan's wedding, once a devastating rejection, had transformed into the catalyst for necessary change. The experience had forced reconsideration of what family truly meant, what boundaries healthy relationships required, and how rejection sometimes cleared paths to unexpected blessings. I no longer defined myself as the family outcast or rebel. Those labels had served their purpose during my individualization process, but now felt unnecessarily limiting. I was simply Heather, designer, friend, daughter, sister, navigating complex relationships with growing wisdom rather than reactive patterns. Life rarely offers perfect resolution to family wounds. Healing comes not from dramatic confrontations or tearful apologies, though those occasionally happen, but through consistent choices that honor both connection and self-respect. The wedding exclusion that once defined my family narrative had become merely one chapter in a continuing story, significant but no longer defining. As I watched snow fall outside my New York window, I felt gratitude for both what was lost and found in the past year. The journey from rejection to reinvention had taught lessons no comfortable acceptance ever could. Sometimes the greatest gift is being forced to create a path entirely your own. So, for those watching who felt excluded, overlooked, or dismissed by the people who should value you most, I see you. Your worth isn't determined by others' recognition. Sometimes the most beautiful journeys begin with painful departures. Has rejection ever led you to unexpected opportunities? Comment below with your story of turning pain into possibility. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life experiences, and remember that sometimes when a door closes, it's not just a window that opens, it's an entire landscape of possibility waiting to be explored. Thank you for watching, and may you find the strength to create your own path when the expected one disappears.